Rising, rising, rising to the gods and the goddesses, to the empresses and the emperors. Everything is a state of mind, as we know. So when you are unable to see, it's your state of mind that's unable to see. It's the character defects, the psychological manipulation that's ongoing, whether it's through the school system, whether it's through the religious system, law system, it's all mechanical. So firstly, y'all, let's get up to date with what's going on. So they throwing out a lot of money, whether you want to call it a stimulus, unemployment, SSI Plus, the CARES Act, the Pandemic Act, it doesn't matter. This is how evil people give back to the people that they owe. They create these scrupulous circumstances. They're waging wars against one another due to their inability to get along with one another, as you can see, without the conglomerate of black people in office. And yet we still have this fighting Democrats, Republicans, liberals, moderates. You get it. It's nothing but a movie. Get your organic popcorn if it exists and enjoy it, because it's gonna keep going on. The whole idea is that we can't be idiotic enough to read and know the detriments associated with the virus and what we need to do in order to protect ourselves from any form of a virus, and still find ourselves here panicking over absolutely nothing, doing all that the so-called government requires one to do without it even being obligatory. And how can another man see what's best fit for my life better than me? Regardless if I choose to ruin it or if I choose to blossom it, that's for me as a human being and an individual to make as a decision for myself, okay? So we're also seeing a whole host of crippling between businesses as well. And that's from the small businesses. They unfortunately have taken a tenfold because they depended on you, me, coming to the grocers, coming to their local provision shops for what they have to provide for the needs of the community and those that choose to do business with them. And at this point, it ain't happening because someone said, you have to close down your shit and get a loan from us. Why? Because you're not gonna have the foot traffic you need to pay your rent, your mortgage, your bills, and do the things you wanna do in life. You see? So they're getting banged. There's lines upon lines. Spanish people, black people, they're at the pantries. They're looking to go take the false positive COVID tests, which of course are nullified. You should not be using any test kits. You shouldn't be taking in any fetal abortion matter into your system that they call vaccines, which actually numerologically breaks down into the number 666, just as Henry Kissinger's name does the same thing. Ronald Wilson Reagan, his name does the same thing. Let us be mindful, y'all. You know what time it is. We're not playing with people who give a flying screw about you or me. And that's a given. We're here on stolen land that the leadership of this country chooses to lead from. And that's against spiritual law, that you can usurp a people and then seek to establish the law and seek to establish the law therein. That's like me going into your apartment, robbing you from all your property, then posting in your apartment and telling you, well, these are the new rules of your apartment. Can you see the idiocy associated with that? This is why we continue to reiterate to one another to take your mind back. It's your last and best option. Or you can continue to go along with the storyline and whatever narrative it is that they choose to impose on you all. It will not get better. You have to learn your dandelion, your burdock root, your elderberry, your turmeric. You have to learn your organics in terms of what is and what isn't. Like you might buy something USDA and you're thinking, well, this is USDA stamp, this is organic. No, the USDA is damn near the World Health Organization, the Food and Drug Administration, the National Institute of Health, the American Medical Association, the Center for Diseases and Control, so on and so forth. Let us be mindful that we're not buying into anyone's logic, and we're learning the logic of our bodies and what it needs to sustain itself and what we need to do in order to protect ourselves, whether we're in nature, whether we're at home, or whether it's giving instruction to our children on how to cope in a systematic, mechanically staged, racist, disproportionate, fascist, imperialistic society without letting the emotions and the evil and the ugliness of it all overtake you and best you. Stand tall, y'all. This jihad, I stand for the people, and I always will. I'm not going to televise this revolution, because anybody who knows me knows every day I'm in the field addressing, dealing, and having a great old time taking on to all these so-called matters. Y'all be easy and take care out there, and be easy and mindful of the so-called manipulators of the world. Peace. What's going on? Stand tall, live long and strong. You'll always be as old as you feel. Listen, I'm going to address some protocol with regards to how black men, black women, families, children are supposed to operate within a given society. I don't think we've given our children a protocol, and I don't think our parents understood how important the protocol was, and I don't think each child needed to have been born in a Black Panther, pro-Islamic, Muslim family in order to have the proper defense mechanisms, whether it's verbally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, physically, and psychologically, in order to be successful in this type of world that we're living in. The first thing is, we are all to leave out in parties or one body. That means groups of 2, groups of 3, groups of 4, or one big group of 20, one big group of 30, one big group of 5. You see? That's the first thing we need to do. As long as there's 2 strands of rope, we're stronger. 1 strand of rope, you could be victimized. In cases where we have a police officer like we've seen recently with this innocent man once again victimized, killed to the same extent of being unable to breathe and having a lunatic Caucasoid, unfortunately an erratic animal away from their natural habitat, which is under the earth someplace, misappropriating power for their own aggravations. And for me, that death was a pride killing. He killed that man just because he didn't want to do what those passerbys and standbys were yelling to him to do, which was to relinquish the knee off of the gentleman's neck, because the gentleman obviously was surrendered, right? So that didn't happen. But the people there that were yelling, that's not the etiquette. What they were supposed to do is band together, 1 group of 5 or 6, collide on 2, 1, 3, you name the number of officers necessary to relinquish the death grip, which was the knee to the neck of that poor bystander. Had they did that, then we would have seen that he wouldn't have been able to kill, because we joined together as a collective. But when we're not a collective like we need to be in our neighborhoods, then unfortunately it's the self-hatred. So we become our biggest enemy. As people have said timelessly, our ancestors, foremothers, forefathers, and even in these modern times, we become our biggest enemy because we don't love one another. We're constantly trying to hide our shame, hide our poverty, and really relinquish the reality of having to be seen in this state without having the clothing, the jewelry, the popularity, the luxury complex to make us feel good about ourselves, which should never be. You should be valuing yourself based on the valuation or the worth of your spirit and your soul, never based on anything that you put on or anything that is a tangible, meaning it has no life to it, so therefore it has no meaning as much as it would to a human, which is the top of the food chain, as you can see. Right? So those youngins that were there, or adults or any passerbys, as a group effort in the community, they should have a way to offset intruders, invaders, the treasonous. We have to police our own communities, those within it and those who seek to invade it for whatever their maniacal, diabolical reasonings might be. You see? So if we're taught to go out in groups, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, or one big party, we're all that more harder to defeat. If we're taught to see that sister as a brother, that younger brother as a brother, and that older woman as a mother, and that older man as a father, then we're taught to respect all people. But if we're looking at TV and manipulated, and now we became one with the Matrix, when we see our loved ones, now we feel, okay, they're loved ones, but I seen something on TV to where a loved one and another loved one had an issue, and they came for each other. whether it was physical or just emotional profanity, which is never healthy. We have to unite in order to be of any contention against those who seek to have us emotionally stirred. Because the minute we get into the state that we're in now, as a result of what we saw, our own losing a life senselessly and again to the hands of the same massa, but yet you're going to say we're going to bring this case to the court in the system of the same masters oppressing my foremothers and forefathers as well as me? Are you idiotic? Why would I want to bring my case to a court of injustice and a court whose constitution says we're 3/5 of a man, 60% human? Could you imagine the devil himself telling who's human and who's not human? Could you imagine? But this is what their courts say, and I'm going here and I'm seeking out justice because a few people have been rewarded lawsuits and this type of thing, because it's the only way that you can legitimize in whatever your business aspirations are. Emotionally getting any way won't offset what is, and that we know. We have to collectively band together and know how to offset intruders out of the community, but that first has to begin with us uniting, holding, embracing one another entirely, in order that the love is there and set to where when one is being mishandled, misappropriated, mistreated, we can, of course, with wisdom and sense and not turning the cheek left and right, handle the situation. In order for us to live, many will have to die. And believe you me, we'll be living.